κύριος Templar είναι πρώην αποκρυπτογράφος και αρχιεμπειρογνώμονας στην ανάλυση πληροφοριών. Κατά τη διάρκεια της στρατιωτικής του σταδιοδρομίας, έχει συνδράμει σε ειδικά στρατιωτικά αποσπάσματα και στρατιωτικά θέματα επιχειρήσεων. Έχει επίσης υπηρετήσει ως εκπαιδευτικός σε σχολεία πληροφοριών των ΗΠΑ. Η ακαδημαϊκή του έρευνα συμπεριλαμβάνει την πολιτική ιδεολογία Βουλγάρων διανοουμένων μετά την Κομμούνα των Παρισίων και τη συμβολή της ιδεολογίας του στην ίδρυση, ανάπτυξη και τις δραστηριότητες της εσωτερικής Μακεδονικής Επαναστατικής Οργάνωσης, το γνωστό VMRO. Εξετάζει επίσης τις δραστηριότητες του οργανισμού προκειμένου να δημιουργηθεί ένα κομμουνιστικό καθεστώς Βουλγάρων στη Μακεδονία τουλάχιστον 20 χρόνια πριν την ίδρυση της Σοβιετικής Ένωσης. Πιο συγκεκριμένα, το έργο του αναλύει τη σχέση και την αλληλεπίδραση μεταξύ των μελών και των παρατάξεων της οργάνωσης αυτής με σύγχρονα πολιτικά πανσλαβικά κινήματα και κυβερνήσεις, όπως επίσης και τις πολιτικές και τρομοκρατικές δραστηριότητες αυτών. Έχει εξπίσεως ενδιαφέρεται σε θέματα εθνικής ασφάλειας και δημόσια διακυβερνητική πολιτική, public policy και στρατηγική. Κατέχει πτυχίο από το Western Illinois University και τις κοινωνικές και ανθρωπιστικές επιστήμες, πτυχίο Masters από το Northeastern στην ανάπτυξη ανθρώπινου δυναμικού, το Chicago, και δεύτερο Masters στη στρατηγική νοημοσύνη από το National Intelligence University of Washington, D.C. Με ειδίκευση στα Νότια Βαλκάνια και στην Τουρκία. Είναι μέλος της ομάδας εμπειρογνωμόνων ελληνικής πολιτικής και του Συλλόγου Πολιτικών Σπουδών του Ηνωμένου Βασιλείου. Please allow me to read that in English as well, if I may introduce you. Mr. Marcus Templar is a former code breaker and principal subject matter expert in intelligence analysis. During his military career, he has supported intelligence operations on a national level and served as instructor in a number of U.S. intelligence schools. His academic research includes the political ideology of Bulgarian intellectuals after the Commune of Paris and the effect of their ideology to the establishment, development, and activities of the internal Macedonian revolutionary organization known as VMRO. The research also examines the organization's activities in order to create a communist regime of Bulgarians in Macedonia at least 20 years before the foundation of the Soviet Union. More specifically, his work analyzes the relationship and interaction among members and factions of the organization with contemporary political and Slavic movements and governments, as well as the organization's political and terrorist activities. Intrinsically, he is interested in matters of national security, public government, policy, and strategy. He holds a BA from the Western Illinois University in the Social Sciences and Humanities, Macomb, Illinois, master's degree from Northeastern Illinois University in Human Resource Development, and a second master's in Strategic Intelligence from the National Intelligence University of Washington, D.C. He specializes in the Southern Balkans and Turkey. He's a member of the Greek Politics Specialist Group of the United Kingdom's Political Studies Association. Ladies and gentlemen, without further delay, may I introduce to you our honored speaker, Mr. Marcus Templar.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? All of us started talking about unity and this kind of things and love. And I think there's a problem because we don't hear well, perhaps. I was telling a joke earlier about three people being together. And one of them says, "Who is windy today?" And the other says, "I thought it was Thursday." The third one jumps in and says, "Me too, let's have a beer." So it is a matter of understanding, of listening, maybe better. I think, that's my opinion. What I want to say is that I am from Thessaloniki. I was born there. And my origin is not very much Greek, but it doesn't matter. I feel I'm Greek. Okay? I served in the Greek army in Poligarchon in Macedonia. All my life I lived in Macedonia, at least in Greece. I left Greece when I was 25 years old from Montreal. I studied there. And from there I came here. But people ask me, who is a Greek? And my answer is, anyone who wants to be Greek. I'm looking at the map, that's better. Anyone who wants to be Greek. So that's how I perceive who is Greek. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is with my distinct honor that I have accepted to deliver this speech today. By the way, I'm very, very touched. I have to say that. Emotionally touched. It's about the region where I was born, reared, educated, and served as conscript in the Hellenic army. Macedonia is my particular Hellenic homeland, and Thessaloniki is the city I was born. Ever since Karanos, the 11th descendant of the legendary Hercules, led his people from Pindos to Western Macedonia, and from there to the Pierian Mountains, Macedonia has been the heart of Greece. She is indeed in the heart of all Greeks. Historians have written volumes on Macedonia and its history, along with the contribution of Macedonians to the life within the Hellenic world, but also the spread of Hellenic ideals, philosophy, sciences, and in general, the Hellenic civilization. Even today, one finds relics, remnants of the Macedonia presence in the cities of Bactria, of Balch, Kabura or Kabul, Alexandria or Arachosia or Kandahar, Aria or Herat, and others. All these cities were included in the Greco-Bactrian kingdom and the Greco-Indian kingdom that lasted close to the Christian era. Actually, the Greco-Indian kingdom lasted until around the year 10 AD with the defeat of its last king, Menadros. In addition, at present one sees the Dioscuri brothers, Castor and Pollux, or Polydevkis, and Afghani banknotes with a Greek inscription, Great King Evkratidis. Moreover, millions of Afghanis and Pakistanis wear the Macedonia kapsia. This is the hat you see many people wear in Pakistan, in Afghanistan. The choice of the Dioscuri and the coin of Evkratidis has not been accidental. Oftentimes, Alexander the Great was identified as one of the Dioscuri brothers. Macedonia was destined to play a very important role in religion and especially in Christianity. From historical books of the Maccabees to the Apostle Paul, Macedonia has contributed the first Christian church in Europe, established in Kavala, and the first European Christian, a woman named Lydia, baptized in Philippi, both cities of Macedonia. The innovation of the first Slavic alphabet, known as Cyrillic, and translation of the Bible by the two Greek brothers of Thessaloniki, Saint Cyril and Methodius, into what is known as Old Church Slavonic language, had far-reaching implications for the present world, which simultaneously meant that the message in the Bible is much more important than the sanctity of any language. During its first history, Macedonia prospered. In its long history, Macedonia prospered in the Byzantine Empire despite repeated attacks by Avars, Slavs, Arabs, Bulgarians, Normans, and others. Many barbarities were committed to its people, including slavery. Its allegiance was forced under one ruler or another until it fell into the hands of the Ottoman Turks. At the end of the 15th century, Macedonia received about 20,000 Jews driven out of Spain because of the Inquisition. In the early 1900s, Macedonia became a battlefield between Bulgarians, who were determined to make Macedonia Bulgarian, and the Greeks, who tried to keep it Greek. That conflict is known as the Macedonian struggle. These are the main points of Macedonia's past before the Balkan Wars. Today we are here to commemorate two events that evolved in Macedonia. The first event is the celebration of Macedonia's return to her mother, Greece, that took place during the two Balkan Wars that ended on August 10, 1913, with the Peace Treaty of Bucharest. The second one is the celebration of the beginning of the Greco-Italian War that ended in Greek victory, which proved that the Axis was not invisible. By 1910, the Greek economy had become so dependent on the repatriated funds of Greek immigrants in America that the Greek government could do little to slow immigration despite continued massive losses of workforce. Increasingly during the Balkan War of 1912, more than 40,000 Greek Americans took note of the Greek government's pleas and went back to Greece to fight. Overall, between 1910 and 1930, it is estimated that more than half of the Greek immigrants to the United States returned home. As the first Balkan War broke out, Greece declared war at the Ottoman Empire and expanded its borders. When Eleftherios Venizelos, Prime Minister at the time, was asked if the Greek army should move toward Thessaloniki, or Monastiri, Venizelos replied, "Thessaloniki at all costs." Because both Greece and Bulgaria wanted Thessaloniki, the Ottoman garrison became the target of both armies. The question was who was going to be the first to push the Ottomans to capitulation. The Greeks made it by one day. Securing Thessaloniki meant the reunification of Macedonia with Greece after centuries of Ottoman rule, and that was a brilliant military move. I want to take a break here. I want to show you something. That is the only break I'm going to make. Here is the map of the operations. There were two armies at that time. This is one army, and this was the other one. The first army, moved from Elassona to Sarandapoulos, where they had the battle of Sarandapoulos there. And after the Greek forces won, they moved to Yanitsa. Yanitsa, by the way, it was built by the Ottomans. It was not a Greek city the Ottomans found, they built it, and that's why they call it Yenidze. Yenidze in the Ottoman means new city, Neapolis. And at the same time, the 7th Division, the 7th Division, can you hear me like that, or is better? Yeah. Moved to, from Litochoron up, Katerini, up to Gefira. And after the Ottomans lost the battle in Yenitsa, they passed Axios, and only one detachment went to Thessaloniki, the 26th of October. The rest of the army entered Thessaloniki the 27th of October. It was a token, I would say, occupation or reunification, better. There are two stories on that. I think I should share it with you. One is that when the Ottomans surrendered the city, the Bulgarians went back and said to them, "Hey, we want you to surrender Thessaloniki to us." And he said, by the way, he has studied the Zosimea school in Ioannina, although he was Ottoman Turk. And he said, "I have only one Thessaloniki to surrender, and I have done that to the Greeks. That's it." Then the Bulgarians came in and said, "Well, we are allies, we would like to have our army also getting into Thessaloniki." And Crown Prince Constantine thought that, well, they are allies, let them in. But he said only one battalion. Now, in military terms, battalion is about, depending on the situation, between 350 to, I have seen in wartime, 700 people. That's it. The Bulgarians sent 15,000. And what is interesting, before they attacked in the morning, just about midnight, an officer of the Bulgarian army named Nikoloudis from Philippopolis went to the Greek camp and told them they are going to attack early in the morning. So the Greek army was ready for the Bulgarians, when they attacked, to deflect their attack. And that's how Thessaloniki was saved, and we went to the Second Balkan War, in which in Kilkis-Lakhana, the battle, they had to use fixed bayonets. The other one was that, the other story, when they tried to go to Monastiri, over there, the person who actually stopped the Serbian army was a yardmaster of the Greek railroads. I'm not joking. The agreement with the Serbs was, as the Serbs come down, they will stop wherever they see the Greek army. He raised the Greek flag at his station in Armenochori. I don't know if you're familiar with the area. Just about 3 kilometers from Kremenica. The Serbs coming down saw the flag, they said, that's the Greek army, they stopped. So Florina came to Greek hands. The next day, the Greek army went to Florina. Now, at the other side here, this army was not even an army, it was a division. About, I would say, 6,000 people. At the 4,000 they had, the extra to make them 10,000, they were volunteers. And over there we have volunteers from Cyprus, which I'm going to talk about it, and volunteers from the United States. I'm talking about Americans. I said Cyprus, that's why I'm like that. Cyprus in my heart, by the way. The feeling of the inhabitants of the city is described in the following editorial of the newspaper Macedonia, published on Sunday, October 28, 1912. With warm tears of joy that floods the chest of the slave who recovers his freedom, tears of gratitude for his liberator that fulfills his existence, we are welcoming the Greek army which entered the magnificent city of the Thessalonians. This brilliant trophy of the heroic and victorious Greek army demolishes the cornerstone of the Turkish state for the Greek Macedonia, of the state which, as the kingdoms of ancient masters, had established on layers of bones, of the state which has been synonymous to barbarism and dreadfulness, of the state which, holding in one hand the torch of the arsonist, and on the other the dagger of the murderer, burned and slaughtered our life and our honor, our faith and our ethnicity, and anything holy and sacred that we have. And now, the pulverized homeland of Aristotle and Alexander the Great, whose every hill and every valley, every corner and every span are soaked in innocent Greek blood, and former and recent lamentations of the martyrs of the faith and fatherland, throws itself free into the warm and loving arms of Mother Greece. Thus, the great epic of 1821 continues. The Balkan War against the Ottoman Empire attracted Greek and non-Greek volunteers from other parts of the world. Greek Cypriots volunteered and fought at the side of Greece, not only in the 19th, but also in the 20th century wars for independence and the creation of modern Greece. They represented the people of Cyprus, their attitudes and the Hellenic ideals. One of them was a priest who later became Archbishop of Cyprus, Macarius II. Another notable Cypriot was Christodoulos Sozos, the mayor of Limassol, who at the age of 40 married with a child, followed his family's tradition, and secretly volunteered to fight in the First Balkan War. He died fighting in Byzani, Epirus. In Byzani, Americans fought on the side of Greece as well. No, I do not mean just Greek Americans that I have mentioned before, but American citizens who had nothing to do with Greece. One of them was Thomas Setzer Hutchinson, who after the end of the Balkan Wars, he wrote a book, An American Soldier Under the Greek Flag at Byzani, a thrilling story of the siege of Byzani by the Greek army in Epirus during the wars in the Balkans. Two Balkan wars, the First World War, the Treaty of London, the Treaty of Bucharest, the Treaty of Neuilly, and other diplomatic instruments brought 90% of the historical kingdom of Macedonia back to Greece. The only areas of the ancient kingdom that remains outside Greece are two areas of Upper Macedonia, the region of Monastiri, or Bitola, and the region of Western Orestis, otherwise known as Koritsa, which is the ancient city of Pelion. In 1915, during the World War I, a large expeditionary force of the Triple Entente established a base in Thessaloniki for operations against pro-German Bulgaria. The base ended with the establishment of the Salonika Front. In August 1916, Greek army officers and civilians, with the support of the Triple Entente, launched the movement of national defense, creating a pro-Entente provisional government by the name of the State of Thessaloniki that controlled the new lands in a political sense. The official government of the king in Athens, the state of Athens, controlled the old lands which were traditionally monarchist. The state of Thessaloniki ended up with a political agreement of the two opposing Greek governments under Venizelos following the abdication of King Constantine on June 11, 1917. In 1923, as a result of the mandatory exchange of populations between Greece and Turkey, as well as the voluntary exchange between Greece and Bulgaria, nearly 1.2 million Greeks settled in Macedonia, offering new vitality in this vibrant part of Greece. While Greece was expecting a time of peace to sort things out, where political events led humanity to another destructive war, forcing Greece to participate, although its intention was to remain neutral. 73 years ago, unexpectedly, Greece was attacked by the fascist Italy. At approximately 3:30 in the morning of October 28, 1940, the then Prime Minister of Greece, Ioannis Metaxas, was awoken from bed by his staff and was informed that Count Emanuele Grazzi, Italian ambassador to Greece, had come to speak with him concerning an urgent matter. Metaxas, who was on friendly terms with Grazzi, hurried down from his bedroom and, still dressed in his pajamas, received the ambassador promptly. Grazzi reluctantly handed Metaxas a letter composed by Mussolini. The letter contained an ultimatum for the Greeks. Metaxas was to grant Axis forces permission to enter Greek territory and allow certain strategic points to be occupied by Italian forces. If refused, Greece was to face war. At that time, Metaxas, who suffered from cancer, sat down in stunned disbelief. He quietly asked the ambassador what strategic points Mussolini was referring to, and to his embarrassment, Grazzi replied that he did not know, for this information had not been given to him. With no other reasonable option left to him, Metaxas looked up and declared to Grazzi Alors, c'est la guerre. Then it is war. Which in popularized version has been translated to ohi, or no. It was the beginning of the World War II for Greece, and thus that day has remained in history as the Ohi Day, and that's tomorrow. History has taught us that power is only nominal until it is tested. Greece simultaneously confronted 4 armies and resisted the attacks of the Germans, Italians, Bulgarians, and Albanians for 219 days. At least 2 of those armies were considered very powerful by world military standards until Greece proved to the world that they were wrong. Greece was the first allied country to defeat the Axis power, sending the message to the world that the Axis was not invincible. The humiliating defeat of Italy told the world that the Axis was not powerful after all. The Germans did not exactly have an easy time taking Greece. Upon capitulation on April 10, 1941, the Germans expressed their admiration for the Greek soldiers, declared that they were honored and proud to have as their adversary such an army, and requested that the Greek commanding officer inspects the German army in a demonstration of honor and recognition. The German flag was raised only after the complete withdrawal of all Greek army from Fort Rupel, which was incorporated in the Metaxas line. In the Second World War, all Greeks valiantly fought against the invaders, not just in war, but also during the occupation of their homeland. Among the fighting Greek army, many Romaniote Jews fought for their homeland. One of them was Colonel Mordecai Phrysis. He was one of the first Greek senior officers to be killed in action during the war at Kalpaki, near Ioannina, fighting against the Italian Julia division. Inspired by the Greek resistance during the Italian and German invasions, Churchill said, "Hence, we will not say that Greeks fight like heroes, but that heroes fight like Greeks." The President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, made that clear. He said, "At the 28th of October 1940, Greece was given a deadline of 3 hours to decide on war or peace, but even if a 3-day or 3 weeks or 3 years were given, the response would be the same." The Greeks taught dignity throughout the centuries when the entire world had lost all hope. The Greek people dared to question the invincibility of the German monster, raising against it the proud spirit of freedom. But Greece's adversaries were not detached. On May 4, 1941, in his speech to the Reichstag, Adolf Hitler said, "Nothing is impossible for the German soldier. Historical justice, however, obliges me to say that of all the opponents that have taken up arms against us, most particularly the Greek soldiers have fought with the greatest bravery and contempt of death. They all capitulated when further resistance became impossible and therefore useless." According to Hitler's Chief of Staff, Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel, the Führer wanted to give the Greeks an honorable settlement in recognition of their brave struggle and of their blamelessness for the war, because after all, the Italians had started it. And he continued, "Because of their gallant bearing, Hitler ordered the release and repatriation of all Greek prisoners of war as soon as they had been disarmed." During the Axis occupation, Greek citizens were forced to systematic starvation, led to mass executions, dragged to concentration camps, and thrown into torture chambers. The Germans burned or destroyed as many as 1,600 villages, executed some 21,000 Greeks, the Bulgarians 40,000, the Italians 9,000 in reprisal for the armed resistance. During this dark period of Greece's modern history, the Greeks did their best to protect their Jewish compatriots. Archbishop of Greece, Damaskinos, instructed the church to issue false baptismal certificates to all Jews who requested them, saving thus thousands of Jews. In many cases, Greeks saved their Jew neighbors. The names are described at Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum, and the list of righteous among the nations in Jerusalem. Upon the end of the war, half the population of Greece suffered from tuberculosis after a campaign of systematic starvation in which at least 300,000 people perished in Attica alone. We do not have records of the number of people that lost a limb, nor those who suffer psychological and mental problems. More than 10% of Greece's population lost their lives, and this number includes 56,000 Greeks of Jewish faith, victims of the Holocaust. I must add that the USSR had come second, losing only 2.8% of their population. Unfortunately for Greece, its drama continued after the Second World War. As defiant as Greece was against the black authoritarianism, it remained equally defiant against the red totalitarianism. This time, the ultimate goal was not just the takeover of Greece, but its dismemberment to force Macedonia's secession and incorporation into the new communist-held state. At the end of the fratricidal struggle, the democratic forces of Greece won and Macedonia was secure once more. When on February 11, 1934, the Third Communist International Association, also known as the Comintern, decided to recognize the third Slavic ethnic group in the Balkans, besides the Serbian and Bulgarian, the Macedonian Slavs. It took into consideration Stalin's understanding of what constituted a nation. The new ethnicity and its language will be the dominant ethnicity and language in the new country, that is the Balkan Federation, despite the fact that Macedonia's population was by far Greek. The new country would include the territory of the newly formed People's Republic of Macedonia, or present-day the Fyrom, the Bulgarian part of Macedonia, and of course Greece's region of Macedonia, or Macedonia proper. Ivo Banac, a Croat historian, has hit the nail at the head when he observed the growing successes of Tito's partisans in Yugoslavia creating new conditions in the Balkan region, favorable to Yugoslav solutions for such thorny issues as that of Macedonia. Precisely because under the Stalinist dispensation, nationhood was the decisive element in territorial claims, it was very important to decide whether the Macedonians were a separate nationality or simply a Bulgarian regional group. Tito's disagreement with Stalin was whether the new state of a socialist Macedonian federation should exist. It was not as much as at the political system of the Macedonian state, nor it was about the influence of Belgrade versus that of Moscow over the new country. Stalin had already cemented the power in his USSR. So when Milo Angelos asked Stalin about it, he said that Tito was an amateur, and that fact was that when Tito was in Moscow, in the first months of 1948, treated him with indignation, having the opportunity to eliminate him altogether if he so chose. In February 1945 in Yalta, Stalin had given his word to both Roosevelt and Churchill that Greece would fall under the influence of the Anglo-American political sphere, and because of it, no Macedonian federation could or would include Greek territories. The last thing Stalin wanted was to be seen as untrustworthy. Although it was very important to Stalin that he was perceived as a man of his word, he actually had no choice. In 1948, the reality was that the USSR mortars were not, by anyone's wildest imagination, a match for the United States nuclear bomb. With no help from Moscow, the efforts of Yugoslavia proved fruitless. The democratic forces of Greece won, and Macedonia was saved once more. During the period of 1949-1991, Skopje habitually attempted to destabilize Macedonia and indeed Greece, using hostile means and improvised history, offering, when necessary, new historical evidence that the Macedonians were actually Slavs. In 1970s and 1980s, trips of TV crews traveled to Pakistan and Afghanistan, antagonizing each other, and who would bring more evidence to Skopje, which somehow supported Vinko Pribojevic's and Mauro Urbini's historical truths that everyone who lived north of Thessaly was a Slav. Of course, that includes the Thracians, the Illyrians, the Greeks of Macedonia, Getae, Celts, Goths, Gents, and so on. By the way, these people were, Vinko Privojevic was a bishop. One day he went, one Sunday he gave a sermon in the church making everybody Slav. And I have it, by the way, I have it here actually. His sermon is quite long, probably put to sleep. But it was really a very interesting. I was reading it. It is in Croatian. I was reading it, and in the beginning it was interesting. And then slowly, I got lost because I could not connect what he was talking about, historically speaking. I mean, 22 years after the independence of the Pharaoh in 1991, not only have relations with Greece not improved, but they have become more hostile as time passes. Skopje has elevated the myth of Macedonism to a science. The government of the Fyrom, through informal, non-formal, and formal education, spreads anti-Hellenism all over the country, while it expects NATO and the EU membership as a reward for its inimical behavior. Skopje not being able to respond to Greece's compelling arguments, has opted to circumvent agreements and understandings. It has employed cyber operations, engaging its diaspora to that effect, and encouraging it to do the same. The latter works unchecked and unopposed, gaining the hearts and minds of the world and indeed of the US Congress through misrepresentation of facts and outright lies. The government in Skopje has reached the point of paying journalists, educators, and even contributing to the re-election campaigns of foreign politicians to promote its baseless cause. It is up to us, the Macedonians, to stop them. Can you please go to one more? There. Can you please hit down? I want to listen to this. It's an interview, in a way, during an award. Can you do it? It's all right. It just has to be clicked twice, but. Well, what it's about is Mr. Bitov. Mr. Bitov is the one. Listen carefully and listen to the reaction of the crowd.
That have come from Macedonia, the people that have come from Macedonia and settled here in Canada and in the United States are, I believe, the best citizens of Canada. I believe our people are loyal. And I believe that our people have accepted the way of life here, but will assist in their fatherland to whatever extent they possibly can.
Thank you. well, United Macedonian Diaspora, this organization that you have joined a few years back as a member. What do you feel is the key to our role in the community?
Meto, I, from the bottom of my heart, would like to congratulate and thank you and your people. I think you people have just done an absolute amazing job. I know many, many other Macedonian organizations through my lifetime have tried and started, but really have never achieved what you people have achieved in such a short time. I compliment you, I congratulate you really on what you people have accomplished.
Thank you, Mr. Bitok. That really means a lot. Thank you. Now, for my last question, I think, which I think a lot of people would appreciate, is I would love to hear from you, and since you've been such a great leader for the Macedonian community worldwide, what is your vision for Macedonia?
My vision for Macedonia is for the Macedonians to, first and foremost, respect each other. Fortunately, Macedonia today has a Prime Minister in Nikola Gruevski, of which I believe every Macedonian in Macedonia and wherever else should be proud of. I believe that this man is as honest as they come. I believe that he has the leadership, and I really do believe that Macedonia will progress for the future. But when you ask me what is my vision, I guess I would have to say that maybe I will not see the day, but the day that Macedonia becomes united, one country, from all three parts, is what I really want.
This is what they value most. This becomes the goal of the country, of the nation. That's the national
Really don't have
foreign
much more to
policy.
say.
And this is what is proposed now to be a new banknote of 2,000 dinars. "100 years after the reunification, I'm finishing, of Macedonia with Greece, our birthplace is still in danger. The geostrategic importance of Macedonia, as it gradually increases, develops into a #1 national security issue for Greece." In his book, published in 1886, under the title Macedonia, Ioannis Kalloustipis wrote, "Macedonia is the heart of Hellenism. Macedonia is Greece's boulevard to freedom, the guarantee of its future. And present Macedonia holds the key to the territorial integrity of Greece. Since nobody has the right to negotiate the national security of Greece, nobody has the right to negotiate the name of Macedonia. Macedonia is one, and it is located in Greece." Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. Yes, sir.
Is it true that Western Europe wants to use Macedonia, quote unquote, as the place where they're going to store their nuclear waste materials, and that's why they're pro-pseudo-Macedonian?
I'm not familiar with that, and I believe this is just a rumor, because I will know about it.
Thank you.
You know, You hear people say whatever comes to their heads. It's not, I cannot believe everything people say. I don't know if the Consul General here knows about it. I don't. First time I hear that. But I have heard so many things coming from what we call in the Greek army radio arvila, that I would not give any basis to that. No. Now, I don't know anything about it. First time I hear that. Yeah. Pardon? I'm talking about, yeah. I believe they do that so they can, people can justify to themselves at least, or why certain things happen in the Firm or happen in Albania or whatever. I have heard many other things about Syria, Iraq, and all this. But anything else? Nobody.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about a little bit emotional in the beginning, but believe me, Cyprus is in my heart. I have many friends that are Cypriots. Okay, and when I was little, 7 years old, when they hanged Karaolis and Dimitriou, I was demonstrating in my elementary school. Thank you.
Dr. Templar, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, also before we conclude, please allow me to announce a few more honorable guests we have with us. Last perhaps, but never ever least, we have with us Mr. Jordan Alexiadis, who's the current governor of the Pan-Macedonian Association in New York City. We have the past president of the Pan-Macedonian Organization of the United States, Mr. Kostas Hatzistefanidis. Welcome, sir. We also have with us, with pleasure today, Mr. Panos Georgopoulos, who's the chair of Hellenic Studies at Rutgers University. Thank you for being with us, sir. And also we have our Reverend Father Dean of the Cathedral of New York City, Yetriada, Father Tassos Munaris. Thank you, sir. Finally, please allow me to announce that Ms. Betty Roumeliotti of Lifeline Humanitarian Organization invites you to a luncheon at the Cirque on 5 November at 12:30. You're all welcome to attend. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me, by conclusion of this celebration, to thank you for your presence. Also, Dr. Templar is advising me that this evening in Paramus, there will be a lecture. Dr. Templar, please.
Not the same. It's going to be about the Macedonian issue and the name and everything. The actual reasons behind, not what you read in the newspapers. Believe me, you will be flabbergasted when you start, when you hear what I have to say. I know that because I have relatives on the other side. And believe me, I know how they think and what they have based everything on. Okay? As I said, my parents were not Greeks. I am. But also they were. I mean, they became Greeks. Okay?